This person literally wrote an essay on Twitter/X, which is a platform where you're supposed to like not take it seriously and just post memes. And they actually wrote an essay on that platform. And I'm kind of kidding around about that, but not really. Anyways, let's take a look at their essay about why Baldur's Gate 3 is problematic. The racism in Baldur's Gate is genuinely so freaking hard on me. Playing a tiefling as a black person is brutal. Your party members antagonize you. The game antagonizes you. And the plot positions you as the bad guy if you don't help the druids, calling you slurs. Like, if I don't help the druid who is going to end a child of my race for being my race, I lose access to Karlach. I save the druids and they insinuate I'm a disease. If I fail the druid quest, a massacre of my people is on my hands. What the heck? I come home from a long day of microaggressions and masking, and then my guard is immediately back up. I should not be stressed that I'm making bad decisions, not because Lae'zel keeps threatening to kill me in my sleep for having horns. And for white players, this is just a fantasy. Yes, because only white people in real life don't have horns. I They're trying to make an analogy, but bruh. I didn't expect this much traction off of this. I like this game. It's a good game. Everyone's going to feel different. If you're white and taking a moral stance over the game that's louder than BIPOC, then consider if you're doing that to feel good about yourself. Y'all be easy. Y'all really don't need to tell me more about Karlach, I promise, even if I'm wrong, which still seems unclear. And she can't be locked out. It does affect your relationship with her, and the racism is the point. It's super unnecessary. All right, the quote tweets are a cesspool. I never said don't play the game. I said repeatedly I love it. It's good to deal with racism in fiction, but doing so disproportionately affects BIPOC. Do you all think we prance around every day not experiencing the lack of discrimination? Tieflings, orcs, goblins, and drow are heavily steeped in racist, bioessentialist lore. Attaching intrinsic morality to race is not creative. I don't blame Larian for that. It's not their lore, but there are far more interesting conflicts that have nothing to do with race. Like, y'all don't see the problem with a devil did something evil, and so all its descendants for the rest of time are evil. You don't see the problem with categorizing a large swath of people as evil and calling them pejoratives based on their appearance/heritage. If the tiefling/druid conflict in the Grove was really about the tieflings being refugees and not their race, the druids at the gate wouldn't have yelled slurs. The druid missing a locket inside wouldn't have threatened to beat a tiefling child for stealing from him, etc. And it's funny to watch y'all go, not all druids. Really? There's no way. Not all druids. Excuse me. Where do we leave off? Right, I had to cut it for a second. Okay, right here. And it's funny to watch y'all go, not all druids. Really? So you can do that, but I can't point out that even my traveling companions, whose favor I've earned, implying that I'm good for a devil, is really gross. Y'all over here going, all fictional lives matter. Come on. And don't play a tiefling/drow isn't a solution. I challenge y'all to be brave enough to critique the media you consume. Critiquing something isn't the same as condemning it. I know I've pointed out something specific and right here because overwhelmingly BIPOC are speaking up. It's not bad faith to ask why BIPOC don't get the same level playing field in media. From character creators to stereotypes to in-game parallels to our real trauma, we are constantly misrepresented, meaning depictions of race does not equal forcing BIPOC to relive trauma without consent. And again, like, I like that game. I really do. Come to your own conclusions about whether or not you want to play based on your comfort. I'm not telling anyone to boycott or anything, but the fantasy racism is ingrained into the story, and it does get tiring. That's all I said. Okay, first off, that person should probably go outside, get some sun, touch some grass, all that good stuff, because, like, it seems like they're on the internet way too much. Like, their mind has been turned into mush. Check out this response from Johan that says, pick race that are descended from devils. Surprised when the average good Joe doesn't like you. Don't play other D&D games because you won't like the dialogue there either. Yeah, this whole thing this person wrote is so weird because, well, there's a lot of reasons why, but here's one of the reasons. In game, you can make a human character and make them black. You can play a black human in game. But this person isn't talking about any like racist issues that black humans face in game. They're talking about tieflings and then trying to compare that to being a black person, which is like, you know what? I'm not even going to say anything else on that. That speaks volumes on its own. So more responses. Bulwark says, genuinely such a weird way to view media. We got Punished Billy, shook up the Dr. Pepper can Pepe, it just like sprays the OP. We got Mr. Professional X-Man. Have you ever thought that you were basically playing a half demon and people might not like what is essentially a hell spawn around them? This is completely different than just being a different colored human. Here's someone who supports the take, says, from Thor, genuinely loving this breakdown. I went into this a little during stream, but nowhere near this level of discussion. Please take a look at this when you get a chance. I love Baldur's Gate 3, but also think this is an amazing perspective. I literally had to cut my video because I was laughing too much in the middle of that thread reading that OP's take. Like, dude, if I was streaming and I read this, there would have been like 5 minutes of chat just going off where I wasn't even talking, just laughing because, like, I don't want to get into it again. Let's just keep reading the responses. The amount of replies to this tweet going, wow, I'm so glad I didn't buy this game because it promotes racism, is blowing my mind. Actually terrible how bad media literacy is that we have so many people doing the depiction equal endorsement meme. Plays the edgelord half-demon race. Complains that folks look at the half-demon wide-eyed. Like, seriously, that's like picking an elf and wondering why dwarves hate you. Just realized I forgot to read the users. So this time we got Tyla saying, this perspective regarding Baldur's Gate 3 is so worth reading. I'm black, play a tiefling and half drown Baldur's Gate 3 and love the game. Like every RPG, BG3 asks you to reflect on your experiences / morals or purposefully ignore them to make decisions. That absolutely includes your race and or culture. They made like 7 more tweets for their full take. I'm 30 hours into BG3 and barely out of Act 1, but so far, my experience with racism witnessed / experienced by my character is cathartic, excuse me, because I get to respond to it without fear of personal harm, something I don't have IRL. I can verbally and literally eviscerate a racist. It's glorious. I've talked about fantasy racism and how it doesn't have to be present in the genre, yet is prevalent. I've heard the same vitriol OP has been discussing how fantasy racism can be exhausting for black gamers and how non-black folks think you can opt out of racism just like IRL. That's not even like the main argument that people are giving, though, in response to the OP. From what I could see, the main argument people are making in response to the OP, we could boil down into 2 main points. One, that is simply just weird to compare the tiefling to a black person to begin with. That's just like a weird thing. You're comparing like a devil's spawn or whatever to a black person. So there's that. The second thing is, there's depictions of all sort of evil, bad things in game, whether it's murder, racism, torture, kidnapping, etc., etc. So people are saying, like, it's just kind of weird to take issue with one of these things when there's so much other bad things going on in the game that apparently these people don't have an issue with. For example, the game literally starts with your character and presumably a bunch of other characters having been kidnapped by mind flayers, where they force you into having this tadpole put into your eye that's going to remove your humanity and turn you into a mind flayer. But hey, radio silence there, like, you see, it's like just weird when people pick and choose these things to get upset at. Those are like the main arguments that people have in response to this stuff, at least that I could see. That person continuing on their rant for about 8 more tweets. Even then saying, the dismissal of critiques regarding fantasy racism isn't gamers being too personally attached to their favorite game. It's the same tired dismissal of actual racism by people that think racism is what we're talking about. Imagine brought on by the critique or can be ignored. No. We can simultaneously have 2 stances on this. We can say racism bad, and we can also say that the OP's take is weird, because both those things, like I said, can exist together. Also, it seems like takes like that don't actually help race-related issues in real life at all. As a matter of fact, there's an argument to suggest that making really hyperbolic, weird takes like the OPs are actually making people care less about race-related issues, because, for example, about a week ago, I talked about how there were all these teachers on Reddit talking about how all these kids in all their various schools no longer take race-related issues seriously after they've been pushed on the students so much. And that now they're just basically saying everything's racist in a meme way. The kids are. So they're just like memeing around about racism now. They don't really care about it, a lot of them, according to all these teachers. So when schools are pushing that stuff all the time and desensitizing kids to it, and you got like social media users making really hyperbolic, terrible comparisons, arguably, you may think it's a good comparison. That's fine. But the point is, there is data to suggest that these sort of hyperbolic takes are actually contributing to people not caring about this issue anymore. So yeah, that's part of the discussion too. So let me know what you think about this in the comments. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'll see you there in the comments and tomorrow for the next segment.